Do you think this is by design? Do you think vehicle manufacturers go into really including some pretty cheap, faulty components that are likely to fail on you, only to get you to come in and perform that maintenance on it? What do you think? Holy add-on, Batman. Check this one out. We got a front bumper added onto it with a winch, of course some aftermarket wheels and tires on it. Let's see how much of an add-on they want. Oh my God, such a disappointment, such a flop. There's a reason why Ford halted production for all of 2024. When you look underneath of the hood of most vehicles, what do you see? You generally see a whole shroud of plastic covering the engines, right? It's almost like the first indicator of, hey, don't touch it. Let the vehicle manufacturer, let the dealership pop this off for you and let them perform the work because, well, they know how to do it, quote unquote, and they want to make some money on you. Vehicle manufacturers are doing whatever they can to try to keep you coming back to the dealership, whether it's to swap out the vehicle every 3 to 5 years or be in the service or maintenance bay for some sort of maintenance on your vehicle. Now, it'd be different if they added all this technology into these new vehicles and still kept the price tags pretty status quo, but that's not the case. We've seen such an astronomical jump in MSRPs, and I am always completely flabbergasted by this Cadillac Escalade here. This is the IQ EV version. Can't have much of an IQ if you're buying this one. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. Why is it that we have made tremendous strides in artificial intelligence, space travel, satellite infrastructure, and yet we still cannot build a vehicle to last 20 to 25 years with minimal maintenance and minimal headache? Why can't we build many million-mile vehicles? Even Toyota, which has notoriously been the most reliable car company in the world, even they have fumbled the bag. And here we are, struggling with main crankshaft bearing issues with this particular model. Even a Toyota Tundra, this really was perhaps the most reliable pickup that you could buy. Not anymore. Is it on purpose? Let's talk through it. Much like many other vehicle manufacturers, even Toyota has shifted gears to pumping out throwaway vehicles. Although it looks good, and there's no denying that, the level of peace of mind that this will offer you is nowhere near what the previous generation did. The previous generation was affordable, reliable, and simplistic. Well, clearly here we are no longer affordable for this 2025 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro. And well, it looks like the bird gave it a vote of confidence. How about that? And sure, you can make the argument that it's the EPA regulations and EPA standards and restrictions that are driving and forcing the hands of vehicle manufacturers. You can make that argument. I disagree though, right? That is vehicle manufacturer greed and dealership greed, right? I mean, they're chasing green credits by hybridizing everything, lowering and lessening the displacement size of all these motors of modern day vehicles. That is them chasing government handouts, government subsidies in the form of tax credits or carbon credits that are free handouts. So let me know what your thoughts are of that. In the pursuit of chasing better fuel economy, which they barely achieved with this hybridized version compared to the V8, and chasing increased horsepower and torque, they begin to overcomplicate the platform, right? When you strap 2 turbos to a V6 and a giant battery pack, hybridizing it, it becomes too complex, too complicated for the average Joe and Jane to pop the hood and work on this Tundra with any level of confidence. And well, you could easily work on the previous generation 5.7 liter V8 Tundra. It was simplistic. It was pretty easy to navigate by comparison. This, far too much technology involved. But instead, we find ourselves in this position where every vehicle manufacturer is just pumping out a lot of carbon copy vehicles like these Toyota Corollas behind me, these Toyota RAV4s, Toyota Highlanders, all these soulless vehicles, right? Soulless vehicles that will just get you to work every day and get you home back to your boring life, right? There's no drama involved in so many of these platforms. It's all about just pumping out as many vehicles as you possibly can, keeping the price tag semi-affordable. So again, many of us can just barely skate by with our jobs to make payments on these in addition to our house payments. These here just feel so diluted, right? They feel so watered down, and that's such a shame to me. To be fair though, this is the most amount of Toyota RAV4s that I have seen in my local dealership in a long time. Normally these actually do sell, largely thanks to their bearable price points, right? And guys, don't get me wrong, this is nothing new. It's just kind of new for Toyota, right? And that's kind of the frustrating rub for me. Literally, all vehicle manufacturers are gravitating to this whole throwaway vehicle approach. What vehicles can they pump out? You'll drive for 3 to 5 years with decent confidence level, and you'll like the way it looks, you'll like the way it feels, but things will begin to go wrong with it within that 3 to 5 year time frame. So much so where you'll start considering trading it in for the next model, the next generation. Why can't vehicle manufacturers do what they did with the Land Cruiser of the past, right? The 200 series and older Land Cruisers. Toyota technicians went into building that thing to last 20 to 25 years at minimum with minimum headache and minimum maintenance, right? They built that thing to last. However, what does that generally mean? If they built it to last, that means that they're not swapping out your vehicle every few years, and that means you're not buying a new vehicle, and you don't have that vehicle in the maintenance bay all the time, which ultimately cuts into the revenue, the profit margins of dealerships and vehicle manufacturers alike. And when you combine that less than quality with these astronomical price tags, as I walked all these F-150s here, I kind of peek at the window sticker of so many of them. Oftentimes they are over $60,000, some of them teetering up to $83,000, $84,000, like for the Platinum in particular, which is absolutely absurd. So people truly are just figuring out, hey, it is much wiser to keep my own vehicle on the road much longer than trading out every 3 to 5 years. Do the necessary service and maintenance and try to get an extended life out of it, because these newer ones, they're not coming with much more level of peace of mind, right? And when you combine it with these huge monthly payments that you're going to be making on so many of these new vehicles, it doesn't make sense. Unless this vehicle here was going to last 20 plus years with minimal headache, and you can assure me of that, so many people are just deciding to peel off instead. And it always blows my mind to see how much they want for Ford Explorers nowadays. I remember when these were easily between $25,000 and $30,000, but check it out now. We're over 50 grand, and this isn't even the top tier trim. Let me see if I can find you an ST example that actually looks awesome. So here you go. I think these look okay. Nicer blacked out accents on it, like the wheels better, but look at this. They pop it up even more. Over dang near $61,000 for this Ford Explorer ST. Insane. And what was supposed to be a $20,000 pickup, as advertised by Ford, even this bare bones XL trim with steely wheels doesn't come close to that $20,000 price point. Check it out. We are still over 32 grand for this car truck Ford Maverick. And actually, I won't knock the Maverick. I appreciate Ford offering an affordable option like this. Still has a truck bed. Obviously, it's not any kind of off-road performance-y type vehicle, but I appreciate Ford for offering this. But it would have been cooler to see that closer to that 20 grand price point like they promised. And I think the Ford Bronco Sport really epitomizes much of the issues that we see with modern vehicles, right? It's just a bland, boring vehicle. Still costs 35 grand about. Let me show you this one here. Let's just look at one. Yeah, there you go. So just under $36,000 for this Bronco Sport. This one is the Big Ben 4x4 package, but 27 miles to the gallon. This is what people can afford those monthly payments on. Anything more than that becomes unbearable, especially when you combine it with all the other bills that Americans are facing right now. The increased insurance, your mortgage, cost of groceries, you name it. This is what we can afford. And as if people didn't like going to dealerships enough, people have to face stuff like this. These random bogus packages that dealers will tack on top of the vehicles, whether it's ceramic coating, window tint that costs 3 times more than what it actually costs to apply it, clear bra, rock chip repair protection plans, blah blah blah, you name it, door ding protection, wheel protection, all these things that they've crammed down your throat. It just makes it more stressful. Then you add insult to injury when you see so much of these vehicles being built and manufactured out of the United States in cheaper labor countries, and they still want a premium for these vehicles. It makes zero sense. It really is a shame to me that vehicle manufacturers are doing whatever they can to try to keep you coming back to the dealership, whether it's to swap out the vehicle every 3 to 5 years or be in the service or maintenance bay for some sort of maintenance on your vehicle. That really kind of felt like a planned obsolescence piece, right? That feels like it was almost by design that something would fail. And really when they transition to all these use of plastics, all the additional sensors, these chips, all the technology being crammed into these vehicles, you just can't help but feel like it's done on purpose. What do you think? Now, I'll never pretend to be one myself, but my brother is a master mechanic, and he'd be the first to tell you or anyone that whenever you're turbocharging these smaller displacement motors, you're making them work harder. You're kind of winding them up harder, and there's more stress to that platform, whether you want to believe it or not. Obviously, diesel pickup trucks, they're a little bit of a different story. They're diesel for starters, right? And they're much larger displacement, and it's just a lower RPM. You're not winding them up all the time to generate that type of power and that torque you need for a diesel, right? But for these smaller displacement turbocharged 4-bangers, turbocharged 6 cylinders here, that you're just winding up to a high RPM to generate those horsepower and torque figures, it becomes stressful on these engines. They're not built to last 250,000 miles. They're certainly not. They're built to have a lot of enjoyment for maybe 100,000 miles, 150,000 miles before something catastrophic goes wrong with it. That feels like it's by design. Now we have a huge lineup of big body Broncos here, but I want to show you this one. Holy add-on, Batman. Check this one out. We got a front bumper added onto it with a winch, of course some aftermarket wheels and tires on it, a light bar, Rigid Industries light bar up there on this Badlands Bronco. Let's see how much of an add-on they want. Oh my god, So MSRP 67, 68,000. You can generally expect 8 to 10 grand off of these, I would argue. If it actually meant buying one today, you can get 8 to 10 grand off. And then bam, look at that, 84 grand with all these additional add-ons here. And I assure you that these add-ons, they don't cost this much. There's a bit of inflation to it. You're paying a premium for all of that. And don't even get me started on EVs, especially this Ford F-150 Lightning here. Such a disappointment, such a flop. There's a reason why Ford halted production for all of 2024. They weren't selling. Even with huge government subsidies and tax credits being applied, people were not buying these. And for the record, you and I, the American taxpayer, we are ultimately footing the bill for those subsidies to be handed out to people to buy these things. So keep that in mind, okay? If they ever start bringing that back. But here we have an example. Just over $59,000 for this Ford F-150 Lightning. They've now brought back production of it. So they fired back up the plants, and they're building the F-150 Lightning again. Let's see how it does round 2. Let's face it, a huge part of the reason why the F-150 Lightning was a big flop was because people who buy the Ford F-150, they're generally blue-collared individuals who work for a living, right? They need their truck. It's purposeful for the most part, right? Obviously, you get a few one-offs here and there, but people are not buying an EV, a full electric version of that F-150 here, unless they're maybe a yuppie from Beverly Hills. They're not buying this. So although built in Michigan still, we do have vital components, pieces, and parts still being manufactured in cheaper labor countries. Even on the F-150 here, we have the engine being built out of Mexico. So again, that just kind of becomes a part of consideration for vehicle manufacturers as these tariffs begin to hit. How much do they want to bring back to the United States to avoid getting hit with tariffs? Because they cannot up the price tags of these vehicles anymore if they want any chance of selling them. Even though I am a proud American, let's face it, most domestic vehicle manufacturers really have a reputation of building these throwaway vehicles. Ford, GM, they generally do build vehicles to last a very short duration so they can get you back in to buy another one or keep you in the service bay. Whereas that hasn't been the case with Toyota, but I find it frustrating that even Toyota has now shifted toward that concept. It's pretty upsetting. And let's face it, all boils down to how much money can a vehicle manufacturer generate, right? How can they balance the excitement level of the consumer with their vehicles that they're pumping out? How can they make it look fancy, sporty, maybe up the performance numbers, all while building it to a quality to where they know that something will go wrong, something will be faulty within that vehicle within 5, 6, 7 years maybe, or even sooner than that, if it means getting you back in to buy another vehicle. Not so bad to the point where you don't want to buy another vehicle from the vehicle manufacturer, of course. They want you to have a few good years with it before you want to swap it out for another one. They want you to say, wow, I actually had a pretty good experience with my Toyota Cross. You know, it was really good for the last few years. I think I'm gonna get another one. They want you to feel that way at the end of it, and that is all by design. You honestly can't help but feel as though they don't want you to pop the hood and work on your own vehicle. Really, just when you look underneath of the hood of most vehicles, what do you see? You generally see a whole shroud of plastic covering the engines, right? It's almost like the first indicator of, hey, don't touch it. Let the vehicle manufacturer, let the dealership pop this off for you and let them perform the work because, well, they know how to do it, quote unquote, and they want to make some money on you. And a lot of people will often ask, hey, I think we're about due to go to a direct-to-consumer purchasing model, much like Tesla. However, we can't, right? There's a little thing called state dealer franchise laws that are protecting dealerships. They're protecting their economic impact within their city and within their region. They're protecting their jobs, which I think a lot of us can appreciate that to some degree, right? We don't want to just oust a bunch of people who have made a livelihood off of it. I get that part of it, but at the same time, it would be nice to go buy a vehicle without all the games, right? Be able to go buy a vehicle without having to deal with, hey, would you like to buy this paint protection plan or the ceramic coating or the nitrogen-filled tires? And we have this extended warranty. Are you interested in buying that for $2,800? And before you know it, your $35,000 vehicle costs $55,000 after taxes too. So it just becomes this huge cat and mouse game that a lot of people really will do anything to avoid. And let's face it, I think the constant improvement and advancement of technology has Americans or people in general wanting to go out and buy the next best thing because it does change so drastically just within a 3 to 5 year span, right? I mean, go look at any early, maybe a 2010 or 2015 even Mercedes-Benz, and then compare it to what you see in a 2025 Mercedes-Benz. It's light years different, right? I won't say light years ahead because there's more pieces and components and technology that could potentially fail on you And then, well, you and I, we're likely not going to be able to fix it. You got to take it to the dealership and go spend $15,000 for a whole new technology or head unit within your vehicle. So it's gotten pretty out of hand, right? But it's that constant pursuit of the next best thing, right? Americans, we're guilty of wanting to keep up with the Joneses, constantly have the next best thing, the next shiniest rock. We're all guilty of it, right? Especially in being the TikTok generation we are, we always want what we see online. We want what we see on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, whatever, you name it. We're constantly trying to keep up with our neighbor. And I think it's quite telling that so many people are now gravitating to mid-90s vehicles because, you know, obviously we had some inclusion of some technology back then, but it was pretty sparse, right? And the technology that we had was just very tactile, utilitarian. Everything just felt like, hey, I can work on this, right? If something goes faulty with some of the technology within those vehicles, you probably can swap it out on your own without having a PhD in engineering or computer science, right? Now, it'd be different if they added all this technology into these new vehicles and still kept the price tags pretty status quo, but that's not the case. We've seen such an astronomical jump in the MSRPs throughout the last 5 to 6 years. Obviously, inflation is a big part of that, hyperinflation due to the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. We've talked about it plenty, but it still feels like they could have done a better job at keeping price tags within reach. They know how much Americans make every year. They know our salaries. Why are they charging $80,000 for a Toyota Tundra? People don't buy Tundras to spend $80,000. They're not trying to do that, right? And for the Tacoma, heaven forbid you want a Tacoma, let me remind you of what these cost. The first one here in the lineup is a 2025 Toyota Tacoma Limited, all right? Get a load of that. Dang near $60,000 for this limited Toyota Tacoma with the iForce Max. Again, a turbocharged hybridized 4-cylinder engine underneath the hood. That's the case on all these. Unless it doesn't have that iForce badge, it just has a turbocharged 4-banger instead. But still, even this one, I bet it's probably close to $50,000. Let's see. Yeah, not too far off. This vehicle here should cost no more than 35 grand. No more than that, I'd say. What do you think? And really, there was a time not that long ago that you would not be able to walk up on a Toyota dealership lot and see lines upon lines of unsold Toyota Tacomas. But here we are. Magically enough, when they introduced the tiny 2.4 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged platform here in the hybridized platform, suddenly people don't want it anymore. Interesting. And I hate to put it this way, but you can't help but feel like vehicle manufacturers are all sitting around the table and saying, hey, how can we maximize the amount of money we make, all at the same time as getting people equally excited. And I think they really start leaning into the performance numbers. They lean into the stats more than anything. If you can read the brochure and you get excited about the stats being provided by your truck, then you're going to buy it. And they were really hopeful that that was going to be the case with the Toyota Tundra here. Not so much, right? I mean, obviously they hiked up horsepower and torque tremendously over that 5.7 liter V8. They didn't improve fuel economy that much, but by hiking that up, they thought people were going to clamor for this. But no, it turns out people actually appreciated the raw driving experience of the previous generation, right? It's a very simplistic, reliable platform. And with the naturally aspirated V8, especially with the TRD catback exhaust, it offered a level of drama that people really loved and appreciated. This here kind of buzzes to life. And the same thing happened to the Sequoia. Same thing happened to the Land Cruiser, the 4Runner, Tacoma, you name it. The Sequoia here also used to sport that same 5.7 liter naturally aspirated V8, that brutish V8 that really had a great reputation to run 500,000 miles if you just treated it right. This one here, now we get the 3.5 liter twin turbo hybridized V6, the iForce Max, same thing as the Tundra over there, and well, it's leaving people pretty disappointed. Although it looks good, right? Just like that new Tundra TRD Pro over there in Mudbath, this looks great. I don't think anyone's going to fault it for its appearance, but underneath the hood, you begin to lose confidence. The same thing happened to the Ford Raptor here. This right here is a Gen 3 Ford F-150 Raptor. Gen 2, they introduced this 3.5 liter twin turbo EcoBoost platform, the Power Boost platform, although again the performance numbers are through the roof compared to the 6.2 liter V8 that was in the previous generation. I would still put the previous generation, the first gen Raptor, up against this any day when it comes to reliability and long-term ownership. This here, although fun, isn't going to last as long as that Gen 1. And guys, don't get me wrong, I understand I'm only showing you a couple vehicle manufacturers in this video here, but I could walk any dealership lot and really say the same thing nowadays, and that's quite the shame, right? All these vehicles here, it appears as though they're being pumped out without really signing off fully on the reliability ratings, right? They're more interested in meeting timelines and quotas than actually putting out a vehicle that the consumer can have full peace of mind in. I don't know, tell me if you think I'm wrong. So unless you're a doctor, lawyer, or have a few Bitcoin laying around, you're not gonna be coming out and buying this brand new GMC Yukon Denali. Get a load of this price tag. Absolutely insane. Really, this vehicle here shouldn't be any more than $65,000. But here we are, this is our new reality. Heaven forbid you have a large family and you wanna ride in style, get ready to buck up. And I am always completely flabbergasted by this Cadillac Escalade here. This is the IQ EV version of the Escalade, and I'm almost just blown away by the price tag here. I mean, it doesn't even look that good, but yet they want, this is insane, get ready for it. They want dang near $160,000 for this 2025 Escalade IQ Sport 2. You can't have much of an IQ if you're buying this one. Mark my words, by 2030, you're going to be seeing used versions of this sitting on dealership lots for about 1/5 or 1/6 of that original price tag. Mark my words. And maybe you guys won't agree with me, but by this point in time, by 2025, I feel as though diesel trucks in particular should be perfected. Like right here, we have the Duramax 6.6 Duramax diesel option here within the Sierra 2500. This here should be bulletproof by now, but yet still, even still, they have issues. Even still, you find these in the shop early on in their lifespan, which is really insane. They leave some room for error, and they leave some room for opportunity for these to break on you, right? And bring them in, get it fixed up by the dealership, make some more coin, make some more money, revenue for the vehicle manufacturer and the dealerships alike, and everybody's happy. Well, except for you and I, the consumer. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think this is by design? Do you think vehicle manufacturers go into really including some pretty cheap, faulty components that are likely to fail on you, only to get you to come in and perform that maintenance on it? What do you think? Let me know your honest thoughts. I think a lot of it can be boiled down to the fact that vehicle manufacturers will go great lengths to save just a small amount of money on a piece or a component of a vehicle. I'm talking like, you know, maybe a gasket here and there. They'll go to great lengths to save maybe a few cents or a quarter on those gaskets if it means making the assembly and ultimate production of their vehicles a smaller margin, a smaller fraction, right? Increasing that margin of the profit. So that is where we begin to see these issues, where they'll try to find the cheapest bidder. So I'll wrap up the video there, guys. As you can tell, my voice is getting a little bit hoarse, or puberty is finally kicking in, one or the other. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to tune into these videos. If you appreciate this type of content whatsoever, I do respectfully request that you please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a ton, and I promise it certainly doesn't go unnoticed. Until next time.